So I'm so grateful to have Carmel Boss, the CEO and founder of coabode.org with me today. We're going to talk all things house sharing. Welcome, Carmel. How are you?
Thank you for the invite, Natalie. I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be here with you.
Great. And let me just ask right out of the gate, are you sharing your house currently?
I am sharing it, but with not another single mother, a a friend composer. Always have somebody around. I love having people around. Having been
Y-
brought up with 8 siblings, I'm used to people around. Yeah.
So you prefer that than being all alone, right?
Well, I like my alone time. That's important, but I enjoy connecting with people, you know, in lots of circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about alone time with house shares and that sort of thing, but I want to go out of the gate with a lot of the many benefits. So, you outlined so many on your website. And by the way, folks, go to coaboard.org. She offers a house sharing service. So she's trying to help people do matches, but there's a great deal of other resources there as well. Coabode.org. But Carmel, let's talk about some of the many benefits of house sharing in your research, your experience, and your view.
Yeah, with my own experience, like my own personal story sort of says a lot about the service. And that when I divorced out of a 17-year marriage, I was suddenly raising my son, who was only 7 at the time, on my own. And I started actually having anxiety around the idea that I'm going to be raising this child on my own for the next 11 years. And that anxiety got so intense that it inspired me to find a solution. And so I just got this sort of intuitive message to go find another single mother in one of my meditations. Just go find another single mother to house share with. And in that, I could see that it would resolve my issue, but it also would be giving a single mom an opportunity to live in a house with a yard. I would be getting my son a buddy to play with. I'd be getting somebody to, you do the laundry, I'll do the homework, you do the carpooling, I'll do the, dishes. All those hats get cut in half. And so I thought, wow, this is awesome. I started interviewing single mothers. I interviewed a total of 18 single mothers. I found one with my own priorities and similarities. But these other 17 wanted to do the same thing. And I had my
Mhm.
list, and I thought, this one's got a 3-year-old, this one's got a 4-year-old. They live in the same neighborhood. I'm just going to call them back and connect them, match them up. And they were so grateful that I thought there needs to be a resource for this. So
Mhm.
I created one. It takes a village, and I built one.
You definitely did. And just full disclosure, I used your service and it was the launch pad to my dreams too. So let's talk a little bit. For me, it was more financial. I was looking at I needed to move into a different neighborhood for the better school. And, it was interesting. And I think this is a statistic that people don't realize. Sometimes you're looking at a 1 bedroom, let's say not in Southern California, but let's say in another more affordable neighborhood. Maybe it's 1,400. You look at the 2 bedroom, it's 1,600. So you know what I mean? Like oftentimes if you get a bigger place, especially if you're a renter, it's not like double or triple. So you can get a much bigger place with a lot more space and you're going to pay, a lot less. So let's talk a little bit about the savings of house sharing.
Yeah. So when 2 single mothers pool their rents, okay, so they're paying half the rent each. They're saving there. They're also saving on utilities. That gets cut in half. And then again, like I mentioned, the time and task overload that gets cut in half. Women have reported up to 56 hours a month of free time while sharing with another single mother. And that's huge. You can go on dates. You
It's
can,
huge.
get some alone time. um, and then the emotional component, support, emotional support is huge. Yeah.
Well, I was looking at your one of your infographics and it said the total savings could be $19,000 a year
Yeah, per single mom. That's per single mom. So you're really talking $40,000 a year when 2 single
for
mothers
the
come together.
household.
Now you've got a dual income household, and what the difference that makes. That means you have disposable income that you never had before. Yeah, it's awesome.
Disposable, and that's what another thing I like that you're mentioning the time aspect, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to share a house because it's going to be crowded or I'm not going to have time to myself. But actually doing so and pulling the resources is going to actually give you more alone time.
Yeah. And help. Like if your kid's having a breakdown, the other one can just jump in and say, let me handle this, so that you don't get all frustrated and you get to go take a 10-minute break. It's like, what do we say to kids? Go to your room or go to the corner. We'll do that with the mom. You go to the corner for 10 minutes and take a break. Yeah.
Actually, the Dalai Lama says create a peace zone, and instead of telling them to do a
Yes,
timeout, go to the peace zone and
exactly.
think of a more peaceful alternative to the thoughts you're having right
Yeah.
now. When
Yeah,
you're
that's
ready,
good.
come back.
I like that. So instead of time out, it's time in, you know?
It's and
Yeah.
it's not a not to
Not
say,
negative.
like, yeah, it's not negative. And it's
Yeah.
not like what I've noticed about timeout is you put them in timeout and then the whole time they're screaming and yelling and giving you these stink eyes. And with the peace zone, it's like, oh, okay, I get to go to the peace zone and think of a better choice. And, they could have nice music in there, meditative space, nice, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh, that's so, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, it's
Yeah, we got to put I think I might have written a blog on that somewhere, so maybe we'll share that with some of your people. But I was like, "Oh man, I wish I had known about this when Davis was a kid,"
yeah,
because
sure.
I didn't. So okay, so we talked about let's also talk about the nanny, because this might eliminate the need for after school care as much, or like getting your child to school in the morning. Sometimes it's not always going to be you, right?
Yeah. Well, if your medium income is $58,000 a year, 47% of that goes on your rent, and 42% of that goes on childcare. So, as you know, as you mentioned, you experience some savings with childcare because you get to help each other out in that respect. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if your child is in school and you're a working single mom, then you've got the after school care, which costs money, right? So if you can figure out, like, people that are co-parenting together figure it out. Sometimes they stagger their work schedules so they don't have to have before or after school care. But you might be able to do that with this other single mom as well.
absolutely. And if that's not doable, because most single mothers are working one or two jobs, there's just the fact that you save half on childcare. You're only paying half, so you're saving thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and half on the rent. And let's talk about that, because that statistic you said where almost half is going for your housing and
yeah,
almost half is going for childcare. By the way, that leaves nothing for
nothing.
food. That means you're putting food
Yeah,
on credit cards, right? So
yeah,
it's not sustainable, and it's not even
no,
possible.
yeah,
So if you're really, and honestly, I know a friend of mine has the New Hollywood, and they mentor single mothers, and these single mothers are taking on massive amounts of credit card debt because of that very reason. So
yeah,
the big message here is that life doesn't add up for single moms. That's a statistic that's real and true.
yeah,
So if you are on the lower rung of the income scale and you're a single mother, your budget doesn't add up. It's not a matter, and that used to frustrate me as well, is that I was like, people say, "Oh, you should cut out cafe lattes. Oh, you should cut out avocado toast." I'm like, I haven't had ice cream with my son for 2 years. What are you talking about? It's not at all me being frivolous. I'm not a
yeah,
shopaholic. It's
yeah,
that life doesn't add up.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
All right. So I want to dig in. So we're talking about single moms, but I know that part of your vision is to expand your service to all people. I know you already have single dads that take advantage of your service, but I saw a statistic that you might be interested in. 1 out of 3 young adults aged 18 to 34 live in multi-generational homes. 1 out of 3.
yeah, yeah. I mean, even empty nesters where their kids go off to college and they've got a spare bedroom. There's been quite a number of that of those come on the platform and say, hey, I've got a spare bedroom or two. I can help out a single mother. And Also, yeah, students helping single moms, just with the task and time overload students. There's a number of other demographics, other markets that this definitely would work wonders for. Yeah.
De definitely for everybody. Anybody that finds themselves in a position where they're paying half on rent and then
Yeah.
half on all the other basic needs, and they have to try to, they don't have any even room for one ice cream. You've got to start
Yeah.
with the big ticket items, and housing is definitely one of the big ones, right?
There's actually been a number of stay-at-home moms, intact nuclear families where they're just lonely and they don't want to be raising their children on their own. I have a spare bedroom, but they're married and they'll bring in a single mom. And we go, yeah, absolutely. It's an opportunity, could be a good opportunity for a single mom.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of give you the floor for just a moment. Is there anything else that you want to talk about in terms of what your website offers and what people can do and find at coabo.org?
Well, so the website is basically, I basically use the online dating technology for this site. So each single mother fills out a full-on profile with information like her discipline philosophy, her diet, and a number of other essay questions. And then when she's finished her profile, she can put in her zip code, and all the other moms who have registered on the site will show up as a search result. You click on the username, you read the profile. Does this mom look like she's compatible to me? You put her in your favorites. You just go down this list of search results, and then there's a private email system within the site, and you make contact, give your email address, your phone number, whatever, and that's basically how the site works. We do have an extended questionnaire that has like about 50 questions that we recommend a mom fills out one time and shares that, like print that out when you go to visit meet a single mom that's a potentially a match. You sit down and you read this to each other, because there are questions on there that we get to ask for you. A lot of questions about your children. How much do you drink? Do you have a boyfriend? How often does he stay? Questions that we can ask for you. And then there's other resources, agreement forms. There's a whole slew of resources to make this work. How to avoid the roommate from hell. Lots of how-to questions and answers there. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I loved is when I was doing my house share, people would always say, oh, well, the kids are going to get super attached. And then what are you going to happen if it doesn't work out? And, what we were talking about is we aren't getting married. You know what I mean? Like, this
Yeah.
is something that we are trying to do to help one another out. So I think we have to take that stress off that this is a new marriage or that it's going to be somehow traumatic for the children. And, I want you to talk a little bit about that and your experience, because you're going to have a documentary. You've had a lot of, experience now over decades. Some people have stayed together forever, some haven't. What do you want to say
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah. So when I first built this platform, I really thought it was sort of like for a transitional housing opportunity, 3 months, 6 months, a year. You come out of divorce, you just need some support to get your feet back on the ground. But what started happening is single mothers got a taste of this and said, I'm doing this till my children are 18 years old. This is so amazing in so many ways. So it has grown in that sense. Women have bought houses together. Women have bought duplexes. One of them has a fourplex, and it's all single moms, and so they're creating their own little village. There's these brownstones, these 3-story brownstones, like in Brooklyn and places like that you'll get 3 single moms living under one roof, and it's spread from just 2 single moms and sometimes 3 or 4. I mean, I don't recommend that. A lot of chaos there, but some people love that and do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing that I've known, because I just led a retreat to a royal manor house, and when you have enough space, then it doesn't feel oppressive. We had
Yeah.
9 people in one house, but it had 3 wings and it had 3 kitchens and, you know,
Nice.
ample bathrooms and sitting rooms, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, people were not all over one another. I mean, you might find somebody sitting in the library, someone in the music room, you know, some conversations happening in one of the kitchens. So it, you know, when you get a bigger space, there can actually be more nooks and crannies for you to have privacy in.
Yeah. And co-housing, there are a number of co-housing where there's several houses and each person owns their own home and then there's a center in the middle. Um, so there have been people who have built and developed co-housing and using our website just to fill those needs. So it's all just single moms, they have their own home, but they're part of this really, really awesome connection through co-housing.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to give you the last word on this. We've already talked about how they can add up to almost $20,000 per person. So, two single moms, that's a $40,000 savings in the household. Anything else you want to talk about, either resources on your website that can be really helpful, or you know, vision for what Co-Abode's going to be doing next year this time?
Yeah, next year, this time, we're actually rebuilding the platform with all this AI technology so that these matches that will help with the matching in a big way, you know. And this is exciting to me because to bring AI into this and to create a real high tech platform for this purpose of matching single mothers in particular. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm excited about that, and also taking it to other English speaking countries for now. The UK, we get a lot of interest in other countries. UK, Australia, New Zealand. We've had requests for bringing this as like a franchise or something to there, and a lot of places in Europe. So there's going to be a lot of expansion. Yeah.
Very good. Well, again, this has been, you know, just 20 minutes with someone who has decades in the benefits of house sharing. And I think before we close, I want to, one of the other things I noticed about that Pew research, and I think it's moving away from this sentiment, but I remember a few years ago when an adult child was still living at home, it was considered a lot of people were considering it a negative thing, like, oh, the kid went
Yeah.
to college and they come back and they live in the garage. What we're seeing now is that people are actually, you know, they're actually doing the math. Like if you did the math on what that person could make post college, what their student loan debt is, what housing costs, it doesn't really add up. So if we can find a way for the, you know, the whether it's millennial or Gen Z to avoid that massive housing overload and maybe save up to buy their own house in a few years.
Yeah.
So, do you want to speak a little bit about how the sentiment either can change or should change or is changing in your view on that?
Yeah, so there are a number of companies that will be partnering with us, and what they do is they match up. Um, in this case, they're single mothers, but there's others too, to purchase houses together. And so that and some of them are just you rent with the option to buy, and even some of them will actually help you buy. You only pay for half the house, and then you got a certain period of time you'll fulfill to actually purchase the house over a period of time. And so there's actually quite a number of real estate companies now doing this or wanting to provide selling homes to families, a couple of families, 3 or 4 families. Yeah,
Right, and helping them to figure
yeah,
out how to do that in a world where interest rates got a little bit higher than they were a year ago.
yeah, exactly.
All right, gang. Well, you'll be able to watch this back at youtube.com/Natalie Pace. Reach out to Carmel's team at carlbo.org. And thank you so much for joining me today, Carmel.
Thank you, Natalie. Really appreciate it.